We've been trying to get this man on the show since the Amber Guyger trial, even before it ended, before the verdict, before the sentencing, and we finally got him. Let me welcome to the show Botham Jean's family attorney, S. Lee Merritt. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. Welcome back.
Hey, Karen, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I appreciate you. And Adjua Asamoah is here as well. There's so many rumors swirling. You have been following your Twitter feed as a result to the killing of Joshua Brown, and I want to know what's true, what's not. The judge said that he wasn't shot in the mouth. What do you know right now about the killing of Joshua Brown?
Right now, I know that he went to his apartment complex on late Friday evening, about 10:30. That while in the parking lot, someone met him there as he alighted from his vehicle. They shot him several times, and then immediately fled the scene in a four-door silver sedan. I haven't seen the autopsy. Initially, detectives told the family that he was shot in the mouth and then he was shot in the chest. I did speak with, well, my investigator spoke with a witness on the scene who actually provided medical aid to Mr. Brown, and he said he was shot in his buttocks and his side. There were early statements that he was shot in his back. So ultimately, it will come down to the medical examiner and the autopsy. But the placement of the shooting is probably, it's significant, but the most significant thing is that he testified in this high-profile trial for a rare police officer conviction, and 3 days later, he was murdered. And that's obviously why people are paying attention to this incident.
How should we look at this? We had a fellow call up, said he was an expert witness, former detective, former whistleblower, who said that we shouldn't rush to judgment. We should wait for all of the details to come out. And I think that probably is sound advice. But
I agree.
as a person who has been in this fight, you and Benjamin Crump and others, Solomon Simmons, others who have been fighting for justice. And very rarely do we see a conviction, because I've been talking to you for several cases and we haven't seen a conviction. This is one where there's conviction, and then to have a witness murdered like this. I would like to not rush to judgment. However, history informs us that this might be fishy.
I think that statement, history informs us, is important. Since before the Civil Rights Movement, people who spoke out against law enforcement, people who spoke out against injustice, who participated in trials, they have mysteriously died or had their lives threatened. And we can't take this murder out of that context. I do not think we should jump to conclusions, but the Dallas Police Department and law enforcement officers should be thoroughly investigated. They are implicated in this case, whether they like it or not. There is no evidence to link the law enforcement community to this murder, but there's no real evidence of anything so far.
Right.
And so we owe it to the family of Joshua Brown. We owe it to future witnesses who this could have a chilling effect for people who may have the opportunity to testify against a police officer in the future. This should not turn into a cold case. We cannot allow that. And we cannot allow the Dallas Police Department to investigate themselves.
I was going to ask you.
Case.
So, what is there a special prosecutor? Who gets to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate this? Because that's what's required, right?
Yes. Well, not a special prosecutor. No. You want an outside agency outside of the Dallas Police Department. The Chief Renee Hall did something similar when Amber Guyger killed Botham Jean. She called in the Texas Rangers to perform the investigation because one of her officers was implicated and they couldn't investigate themselves. I think this is the same strategy, except you don't call the Texas Ranger because they've been discredited in their investigation. You either call in the local sheriff's department, the elected sheriffs of Dallas County, or you call in the FBI.
The FBI, under Trump. Okay.
The Trump FBI.
The Trump FBI. Okay, and even Texas Rangers, sheriffs, aren't they all under a law enforcement, police benevolent, some sort of blue wall banner?
They are. And so you're always going to have, hey, you're just calling cops to investigate cops. And the fact is, the family, they called me and they asked me to look into it, and I have, in my limited capacity with my limited resources, I have begun to investigate and learn a lot about what's going on. I don't think the community is going to be content with my office being
Right.
the lead investigator in the case. And if the community wanted my opinion, at least the sheriff's office is an elected official who the community can hold accountable for non-transparent, untrustworthy investigation.
And I like that, the accountability part. But maybe we should have a fund for a private investigator, or something that community investigators. Maybe we need to have like our own investigation arm within our community.
Yeah.
When these cases happen, when police shootings happen, when police brutality happens, so that we have some protection against this system, which is designed fundamentally to protect police.
Right. Well, I have in my office, because all I do is investigate police officers. That's the vast lion's share of my work. I have a team of investigators, mostly former law enforcement officers, who have decided to, I say, come over to the good side and help me hold police officers accountable. And so we have something like that, but an agency that's independent. Obviously, I have an interest. My job is to perform the wishes of my clients. But if we had some sort of community-based investigative agency, I'm all for that. I'm all for community-based policing as well, as long as we're discussing it. But we do need to come up with some internal options to address the issues, ongoing issues in our community. And Karen, I'll go a little further. The reason we need our own independent investigating agencies is because even when it is strictly a street beef, law enforcement officers don't get the cooperation of the community because they don't trust police officers in general to tell them what's going on. That's part of the no snitching code in our community. So this is something that we've discussed among activists and among civil rights leaders. That is certainly something that we need.
So now that I have you, finally, we've been playing double dutch for the last 4 or 5 days, it seems. Number one, Amber Guyger, I still don't know what happened that night. And I feel like we still don't know the full story about how she mistakenly entered Botham Jean's apartment and killed him while he was eating ice cream and watching television. I still don't know. Do you know?
No, and the reason I don't know is because Amber Guyger is lying. And this was my issue about the leniency of the sentence, because 10 years is lenient by anybody's standard. And even my client, who I understand his need to offer forgiveness, and I know this is a controversial issue, but I understand his need to offer forgiveness for his own soul and for him to be released from that. But I find it difficult to get to the point of forgiveness when the person who killed Botham Jean is not telling the truth. She has yet to tell the truth about what happened. We know that she was lying because she said that he was standing up and coming at her when she shot him. She's significantly shorter than him. She shot him in his heart and above his head. If he was standing up, the bullet would have had an upward or at least direct trajectory. Instead, it had a downward trajectory through his heart, through his stomach, small and large intestines, and lodging in his back. He was sitting down when she shot him. And that's medically verifiable, scientifically proven. So that means she's lying. And unfortunately, we're going to have to live with those questions until she's ready to tell the truth.
In your time, Esley Merritt, as a lawyer, have you ever seen a judge hug a convicted murderer?
No. And Judge Kemp was not she should not have done that. I was in a courtroom. She should not have allowed Brandt to hug Amber Guyger. That's against the rules. It's against jurisprudence. There's safety concerns with that. Once someone has been convicted of a murder, it's hands off. Anecdotally, I had a friend who I had to testify for in trial when I was a kid back in L.A., and I went to shake his hand after he had been sentenced, and my feet never touched the ground. The bailiffs drugged me out of that courtroom because you can't do that. However, I was president of the courtroom, and what Brandt did and the amount of mercy and grace that he showed there, it kind of caught us all off guard, family and attorneys included. And I think the judge had a human moment. Mm-hmm. I don't think without Judge Kemp, Amber Guyger would be convicted. I'm not saying she was biased, but she made the decision to leave out expert testimony for the defense by the lead investigators in the case that concluded that there was no probable cause that Amber Guyger committed a crime at all. That testimony going in front of in front of those jurors would have been extremely prejudicial and probably would have changed the outcome of the case. And so I get that people want to talk about the hug. Without her and judges like her, we don't get these kind of sentences. And so I'm a fan of Judge Kemp, despite her poor decision-making in that moment. And there are other people that were exposed during this trial that I think we should be focusing our energy on, like Martin Rivera, Amber Guyger's partner, who was destroying evidence.
Is he still on the police
He's still
force?
on the force. He's not been reprimanded.
Martin Rivera is still on the force?
He has had no consequences. And I have to tell you, Karen, we spent so much of our community has spent so much of its frustration directed at an 18-year-old who's been grieving and a judge who made a bad decision. When you have a murderer, because he killed a kid 12 years ago, and a felon still policing the streets of Dallas, I think we need to redirect our attention to that person.
Okay, and let me sit convicted, because I had a moment of like I could not believe that this judge did that. But I did totally see the point of Botham Jean and doing what he did. Let me ask you this, because we talked about Bunny, because that's the name that we know. Bunny, the woman.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I Bunny came to me for legal advice, so I can't discuss her at all because of confidentiality issues.
Okay. Can we talk around Bunny? Because hypothetically,
we can talk around it.
Let's talk around it, because we're not going to talk about Bunny directly. But the thing that struck me the most is that if a person could lose their job and have people call their job or get death threats, how was that information able to get out if she was a witness that no one was supposed to know because she had a gag order and nobody was supposed to know who she was, and we don't even know her name? I don't understand that. Just hypothetically, Lee Merritt, how do people get information about somebody that's a anonymous witness?
I can't answer it.
Okay,
I know it sounds like we're talking about.
No, I get it, but I had to put it out there. All right, we'll talk off mic. No, anyway, so because I need to know, this is some scary stuff, because if you can have your job threatened or your life threatened and you're cooperating with the prosecutor, I'm just talking. I'm not asking you anything, Lee Merritt, right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just find this. It's another case of. Okay, all right. So solutions.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you in the case of Joshua Brown? In the case of Joshua Brown, who I can discuss and have authority to discuss with his parents, he told the prosecutors that he was concerned about his safety testifying in this trial for two reasons: because he felt like there were people out there who wanted to harm him, and number two, because it's frowned upon in the community where he lives to participate with the state, and they don't care what case it is. If you're in a box on camera testifying before a judge, that's frowned upon in the community where Josh is from. Now, Josh is not a gang member. Josh earned a living managing property and doing roofing work, but nevertheless, in the communities that he associated with, that was frowned upon, and I'm sure you can understand that. The judge and the DA, I don't feel, well, we should scrutinize if they did enough to protect him. Because during the trial, there was an undercover police officer who was required to testify. And the judge came into the courtroom. She instructed Court TV to cut off the camera. And they took steps to ensure his privacy and his security because his life mattered. And I don't know that they gave Joshua Brown the same consideration.
Right, because all that should have mattered was his testimony to the jury, not to us.
Right.
All right. So listen, brother, we're going to pray for you because you and Ben Crump and others are out there doing God's work. And we appreciate you guys standing in the gap. And I thank you for being available today. I'm respectful of your time and I'm respectful of all of the work that you're doing out there. And I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you. And you can call me offline. We'll talk.
Okay. S. Lee Merritt. All right, man. So two things came out of that. Number one, we should probably look at community policing. That's his thing. But also having an arm of community investigators who will do the work of taking care of the things that we don't trust the police to take care of, like finding out who did this. So how do we raise a fund for that? Don't we have tech companies that are raising money for bail? We should look into having some sort of, not crowdfund. I guess it would be crowdfunded. Yeah.
Appalachian is they're in that space. But we can discuss that as far as what's the next step, what is the next phase of that to cover it from criminal justice reform on all bases.
Fronts, because I didn't even consider, as he was going down, I was like, the sheriff. What? The Texas Rangers? Wait a minute! Like, how do we get justice for Joshua Brown if the people who have to investigate it are under the same banner as the police that they're investigating?